Hello, everyone, and welcome to the People Strategy Forum. Today's guest knows that great culture starts with putting the right people in the right roles and building a process so magnetic that talent finds you. Ryan Englin is the founder of Core Matters and the author of Hire Better People Faster. He's created the Core Fit hiring system, and it's a disruptive, proven framework that transforms recruiting into a market-driven strategy and slashes turnover through alignment, onboarding, and culture integration. The Core Fit hiring system, or the Core Fit program, he has stories that are rooted in his blue-collar upbringing with decades of leadership and showing the leaders how to be successful in their roles. Ryan helps leaders build workplaces where people stick and perform and feel valued. And whether you are leading a service business or you're scaling an enterprise, you want to develop a culture that attracts talent and fuels performance. And Ryan's approach will give you a fresh, deeply practical playbook that we're going to be diving into. So welcome, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And so, Ryan, the first thing I'd love to just dive in and just to hear a little bit more about your background. So basically, what got you to where you are today?
Yeah. Grew up in a blue collar family. My dad was an owner operator, 6-7 days a week, 12, 14-hour days. I watched him grind it out. And as I grew up, I had this belief that one of my dad's problems was he wasn't good at marketing. And if he could just bring in more clients, more customers, he'd have the cash to do what he needed to grow the business. You know the drill. So got out of college, spent about a decade in corporate, learned a ton about building teams and people and psychology. And as I started my company, I started a marketing company. And it was to serve contractors, just like my dad, blue collar companies. And we did a very traditional website, email, ads, social. We did a lot of that. And while we were good at it, it never really moved the needle for our clients. And then one day I had a client call me, and they were an HVAC company in July in Phoenix, where it's really hot. They called me and they said, "Hey, I don't need more leads. We're booking 3 weeks out. There's no, people aren't following through on the calls. They're canceling at the last minute. I need more techs." And of course, they're just venting at that point. They had no idea I could help them solve this problem. Well, I knew that recruiting is nothing more than a marketing activity. So why don't I shift my marketing expertise into recruiting and see if I can help them fill these trucks? Turns out we were remarkably good at it. Filled up the trucks in 3 weeks. They said, "Turn the leads back on." I said, "Wait a minute. That was kind of fun. Maybe we'd go this people route." And so we did. But then what happened was they couldn't keep the techs. So they could hire them, but because they didn't know how to interview them, they were hiring the wrong ones and they wouldn't stay. So then I realized we've got to teach them how to interview. So I took my decade of corporate of interviewing thousands of people and said, "Hey, I can build an interview process that they'll get that will work." So we did that. And then we said, okay, now they know how to interview. They don't know how to onboard them. So we had to build an onboarding process. And now that they're onboarded, they didn't know how to engage them and retain them. So over time, we built the Core Fit hiring system. And over the last year or so, I've been developing the Core Fit blueprint, which is the way that we deliver it, the Core Fit hiring system, to our clients. And been doing this for over a decade now, and I love it.
So tell us a little bit about your book, Hire Better People Faster. I mean, what was the inspiration behind that? When did you write that book?
Well, I wrote the book in 2020, 2021. It didn't get published until 23 and came out in October of 23. And I wrote it because I knew there were a lot of people that were in my dad's situation. They were too small. They didn't have the leadership team in place. They needed some support and some help, but they were never going to call us and say, "Ryan, help me fix this." Yeah. And so I wrote the book to get the information in their hands. And it's a deep dive into each of the components of the Core Fit hiring system. I mean, we break out the tactics, the tools, everything you need. It's not another business strategy book. It is strictly, here's how you get this stuff done. Here's what you need to do.
So it's a how-to, step-by-step type of approach, right?
I've actually had people call me and say, "Hey, I read your book. It was awesome. I don't think I'm going to hire you now because you gave out everything in the book." So it's I guess it's pretty good.
Yes, but I'm sure that you're bringing greater value than the book itself and in your interactions and coaching with your leaders. So
absolutely,
I think they're probably missing out.
for sure.
So tell me, so when we're thinking about hiring the best and retaining people overall, I mean, what's the first steps that needs to take place for leaders? What should they be thinking about?
Well, if you want to attract the best people, and everybody has a different definition of what the best is, you have to become the organization. You have to become the leader that is attractive to the best. If you're not attracting the best, you're probably not attractive to the best. I mean, it's that simple. So the first thing you need to do is sit down and write down, just put it on a piece of paper. What is the best employee? How would you describe them? And look beyond things besides the skill set and the experience. Look at their behaviors, their mindset, their attitude, their communication styles, everything. Write it all down. And then ask yourself a really honest question, which is, would my company be attractive to that person? Another way to think about it is, are we putting out into the world the things that are attractive to that person? Because I find that a lot, especially small businesses, under 250 employees, they usually have some really cool stuff that they don't brag about. And so the best people don't even know it's an option. Like, they're not putting it out there, because what do we do? We give recruiting to HR. We've already discussed that or recruiting is a marketing activity, which is not the HR department's expertise. Their compliance. And so what we really need to do is say, you know what? Good news, HR, recruiting now goes to the marketing team. They'll be much more effective at it. Trust me.
What are your thoughts on that, Smith? I mean, we were thinking about bringing in the right people and the hiring process and leadership.
I think including marketing and recruitment is a great idea. And a couple of organizations where I've experimented with this, it's been a game changer. So of course, HR still has to participate in saying that these are the key messages we'd like to go out to our target audience, and the marketing folks make it happen. They make sure that we're, as they say, we're describing the benefits, not the features.
Right. So what's the best way to rope in the marketing team, Ryan, and how should they be shaping that employer brand to attract the right talent?
Yeah, well, I want to be clear. When we talk about employer brand, I'm talking about the messaging, not so much the designs, the graphics, all that stuff. A lot of what we do in marketing as organizations translates those skills, those activities translate almost directly to recruiting. They call it recruitment marketing, and I love it that you said that, but everybody has a different definition for what recruitment marketing is. And I'll just tell you this. If we're doing it to attract customers, we should be thinking of doing that to attract candidates.
Sure. Yeah.
No matter what it is. And when you think about it, the marketing team knows how to create a customer persona, the ideal customer. Yet we give it to HR to put together the ideal candidate, or we give it to the hiring manager who just wants to finish building the widgets. And we ask them to do it. Give it to your marketing team. What's an ideal employee for us? They'll know who to ask. They'll know what questions to ask. They'll be able to figure that out. Let them put together your ideal candidate profile. Then from there, think about the thing that you post on the job boards as an advertisement, not as a job description, which is what so many people do. They call HR, they say, hey, can you give me something to post on Indeed? HR pulls a job description, and then they copy and paste that into the job boards. But we know, because I've never had anybody argue with me on this, people don't leave jobs, they leave people.
Yeah.
We know this. Yet what do? We post an advertisement or a job description for a job,
right?
Not for a leadership team, not for a company culture, not for all the reasons that people leave. That's what we should be posting. That's what we should be putting out there. And I think your marketing team, it'll be so natural for them to figure that out and say, you know what? We need to put an advertisement on our website, an advertisement on a job board, not just the job description.
Yeah. So Smith and I and the CompTeam, we work with a lot of different leaders, and often when we're putting materials together, we will go to the website and pull information off about the employee experience or their messaging. And it's funny, from time to time that they'll ask, where'd you get this language from? It's like, oh, we got it from your website. It's like, oh, well, somebody else built our website. That's not our language. And I'm like, oh, we got a problem there.
So, you got a problem.
But it's funny. I think that a lot of employers and perhaps even the smaller employers forget about the power of that marketing engine and those different things that are reaching out. I think that do you find that some of the leaders and founders of organizations that you're working with, like sometimes they're doing so many different things that they forget what's up?
Yeah, I would say we haven't worked with an owner, gosh, in the last 10 years that just wears the owner hat. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen. They're out there estimating, they're project managing, they're visiting job sites, they're managing the safety team, they're doing so many other things. And when I take a step back and say, can you just breathe for a second and help me build this? Even that's difficult for them because they're doing 7 different jobs and all of them full time and some better than others. And the recruiting one's usually one that they struggle with because a lot of these smaller businesses, they don't even have an HR person. It's usually a controller or someone in finance that's managing the HR processes, and they're doing their recruiting and they're doing the best they can. But that's not what we hired them to do. That's not their expertise, but we give it to them because, especially in service businesses, your single largest line item on your P&L is your labor expense. And so it doesn't always click for me, but I guess I can see how they would say, well, that needs to report up to finance. Let them take care.
Yeah. So sometimes there's those strange things that happens in small business. But let's get back to the messaging piece that you were talking about. And so when leaders are crafting, or the marketing team is crafting messaging to create that magnetic culture, where should they start first?
Well, I like to start backwards because there's nothing worse than creating a promise that you can't deliver on. So I would take a look internally and say, what kind of culture do we really have? Who are we as an organization? Why do we do what we do? What's acceptable behavior? Like, how do we expect our people to behave and think and communicate? And sit down and document all of that. Get it really clear. Because there's something about putting it on paper and sending it to someone and having them read it and go, yeah, that ain't us. That's not us. Or, oh my gosh, you nailed it. I think that's a really important piece. We had a client years ago. We did this process with them to define their culture. And it was a bunch of guys that went to high school together. It's 5 guys. They all ran this company together. One of them bought it from dad. And they were the most passive aggressive fraternity type bunch I've ever seen in my life. And I told them, I go, one of your values needs to be passive aggressiveness because you guys clearly value that. And they're like, we can't do that. That's toxic. That's bad. And so I said, you know what, now that we've defined this and I know who you really are, I know you guys are struggling with performance in the sales department. You're struggling with turnover in the sales department. You're struggling to interview and hire the right people in the sales department. Let me write a new job ad. And so I wrote a job ad that was basically like a recruiting ad for a fraternity. I mean, it talked about all the fun stuff we did, the hazing and the raising, razzing each other and the passive aggressiveness. And I gave it to the procurement director and he read it and he goes, dude, I want to work for this company. This sounds awesome. The good news is you do. But he never thought about it that way. So they took that ad and they got a completely different type of sales candidate who they clicked with right away, they had fun with. And 6 months later, sales were through the roof. People were hitting record numbers. It was because they hired the right people that fit in that culture. But if they had not gone through the process of defining it first, they would have never been able to deliver on the promise they made in that ad.
Right.
And too often we see people make promises in ads and then candidates show up and go, this isn't what I signed up for. And I'll give you a quick test. If there is a part of your process when you're bringing a new candidate in for an interview and there is, hey, hide my crazy cousin in the back room. Hey, clean up the shop. Hey, those busted up trucks, make sure they're not here in the front. Hey, everybody park around back. Like whatever that is, if you're doing any of those kinds of things, you have not fully documented who you are and really understand who you are. And you're making a promise that you can't deliver on.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that people and employers need to be honest with themselves. I mean, and bring out their true colors. I mean, it's true. There is a workplace for everyone, and some people may I find that passive aggressive type culture shocking and not a place where they want to be. And then if you're honest with it and create that ad, as you mentioned, you can attract the right people for your culture, regardless of what it may be. Would you agree with that, Sumit, or what are your thoughts there? Oh, we lost Sumit there. So but that, I think it's important to be honest with your clients, or the people that you're trying to attract. So so let's dig into the talent acquisition piece a little bit more. So when we're thinking about, when we're identified that right culture, that right person for the job, and we're trying to onboard them and retain them, what are the things that a leader needs to do, and to ensure that they're onboarding those people effectively and retaining them long term?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I like to do is I like to ask someone to define for me what's the right employee, what's a great employee. And what they never say, oh, they can use this software like a whiz, or they can turn a wrench, or they can hit these performance numbers. They're never thinking that. They're thinking the things like they show up on time, they're respectful, they clean up the job site. Like, they're talking a lot about behaviors. And so if we want the right people to stick around, they need to not only understand how we behave, but we need to understand how they behave. And so onboarding needs to shift from showing them how to do the job to showing them how to be a part of the team. And that's what people really need. And so onboarding, and by the way, I don't even consider the checklist that HR goes through onboarding. Like, that's just a technical requirement. That is not onboarding. Onboarding is, we divide it into 3 different steps. The first one is working with them to think like we think. Most people want someone with experience, that's been in the industry for a while, that's been doing this type of work. Yet we get frustrated when they bring bad habits or different ways of doing things, because we never spend the time to teach them how we think. What do we think about customer service? What do we think about performance management? What do we think about these things? Communication. And if we would just slow down and spend some time, we actually encourage you to spend 2 weeks on this, is to spend time integrating them into your culture, helping them connect with people, create relationships and friendships, teaching them how we think, because that will take them so much further once they're doing the work. Because now they can look at a problem and go, all right, how would Sam think about this? And they can take that step back and they can solve it the way you want it solved, without having to call you and say, this is what we're going to do. So that's the first part. The second part is doing like we do. So I want them to be able to follow our processes, understand what our processes look like. Now, if you don't have your processes documented, that's a whole different podcast, right?
Yeah.
But can they follow your process? Can they follow your check? Can they do it the way you ask them to do it? We work in construction a lot. So do they do safety the way you want them to do safety? Like, just thinking about safety, which is usually watching out for someone else and identifying safety issues. But now, can they actually do the things? Like, do they wear the appropriate harness? Do they put their vest on? Do they have their PPE? Do they do those things? So it's teaching them how to do the things the way you do it. And for a seasoned person, that might be really fast. For some people that maybe haven't been in the industry for a while, or came from a tangential industry, it might take a little longer.
Right.
And then the last part of onboarding is teaching them how to win like we win. What does it look like to achieve success? What does performance management look like? What does a career path look like? What does it look like long-term here for you? And sharing that with them. And all of this, you do this all in the first 90 days. And all of a sudden, engagement and retention and all those other things that we struggle with becomes so much easier. But for some reason, so many leaders would rather do it over and over and over again, just hoping the right person shows up, than pausing and saying, you know what, maybe we should take the time to do it right now.
Yeah.
Instead of always making the time to do it over, because we seem to be really good at that one.
Right. And I think that's a good entrance to talking more about your core fit blueprint. But before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about retention. And so once we identify the right candidate, we bring them in, we onboard them, we give them the enablement to be able to do their job effectively. What's the key to long-term retention in your industry with those hourly or potentially blue-collar employees?
I think it doesn't matter what industry you're in. I think retention all has the same foundation, which is, why should your employees care about you and what you want if you don't spend the time caring about what they want.
Right.
Money is a means to an end, and they'll work hard for the money, not because it's the money, but it's because what the money affords them.
Mm-hmm.
And we all spend almost no time understanding that from our people. We spend zero time. We're just like, oh, they want to make more money. Okay, great. When someone comes and says, hey, I'd like a raise, I want to know, like, what are your plans with the raise? Like, I want to know what's going to keep driving you and motivating you to perform well because you want more money. Now, for some people, it's really great things. They want to buy a house. They want to get out of debt. They want to start a family. Like, these are things that most people can wrap their arms around. For some people, it's, I want to go party more, right? And the thing is that party more doesn't always align really well to what my business goals are. We've got a client right now that's dealing with a guy that just keeps no-showing because he's hungover. Like, doesn't align very well. But once you understand what they want to accomplish in their personal world, you can translate over that into the business world and support them in that. We had a client a couple of years back that they had a first-time home ownership program as part of their employment. And so after you'd been there a year, you could apply for a grant for a down payment, and they would actually give you the money. I think it was up to like $3,000 towards your down payment. They also had, if you wanted to be in this first-time buyer program at work, they had lunch and learns where they brought in real estate experts, mortgage experts, financial experts, credit repair experts, insurance experts, and they do these lunch and learns, and they teach you about the process of buying a house because they understood, this is what's so cool, how it aligns to business is they understood that when people own a home, they're more likely to stick around long-term because now they have an obligation to continue to pay the home. Whereas when they're renting, oh, I don't want to pay this rent anymore. I'm going to move across town. It's so much easier. But once they've created some roots, now all of a sudden they would retain them longer. And plus, how many employers are really spending the time to help people buy a home?
Brilliant. Yes. Yeah. Really helping well, first is knowing your demographic, right? And then helping them solve the problems that they have that they are trying to get over. I mean, sometimes we talk about if you're hiring younger employees, it's about helping them pay off that debt. And then others, it's about helping them with purchase that home. So, Sumit, we lost you a little bit earlier. I'd just love to hear your thoughts on what do you think is the secrets to retaining that top talent that you need?
So I think between onboarding and retention, trust is important. And in fact, I had a question for Ryan on the onboarding front, which is that we conduct multiple rounds of interview. We do psychometrics. We do various kinds of tests and evaluations, and we certify that a person is ready to now work with us. And then we put them on a probation policy saying for 6 months or for 3 months, you're not part of us. So we will trust you and make you a permanent part of our team after a certain period of time. I understand it might have made sense in the industrial era where you're trying to test out an employee and you're trying to deal with unions in a different way, maybe. But do you think probation policies are still relevant, or do they do more harm than good in the modern context?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think there's only one state that's not an at-will state at this point in the country. So I actually don't like probation policies, and here's why. So I use a lot of analogies in the work I do. Imagine that you said, "Hey, you know what?" And I know some states have this, but hey, we're going to get married. I'm going to marry you. We're going to move in together. But for the first 90 days, if it doesn't work out, any one of us can leave for any reason. I mean, what does that say about your commitment to the relationship?
Yeah.
Like, we as employers complain all the time. No one's committed. No one wants to be here long term. Yet we put in probation policies that basically say, neither am I. So that's my thought on that.
Well, Ryan, tell us a little bit about the foundational elements of the Core Fit Blueprint system and how it supports a magnetic culture.
Yeah, so it took me a decade to develop the Core Fit Blueprint, which is really the way that we walk our clients through what is either a 2 or a 3 year journey to solve all of these people problems. Like, it's a pretty intense thing. In fact, one of the things we do throughout the blueprint is we help them understand and embrace the 5 behaviors. So anybody that's read Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, they know that the 5 dysfunctions are a lack of trust and unhealthy conflict and some of these other things. And so we actually walk the leadership team through these processes to help them build trust so that they can then go to their field supervisors and help them be more trustworthy. But throughout the rest of it, what we're really looking to do early on is give the leadership team room to breathe. I like to say we like to create margin for them. Too often owners are wearing too many hats. Too often, most people on the leadership team are wearing too many hats. They're being pulled in too many directions and they're not able to actually focus. And a lot of times that comes from not having the right people in place or not having enough of the right people in place. And so what we want to do is we want to come in as fast as possible, solve that problem, fill those critical open positions, get those people onboarded, get them engaged. And then that way the leadership team can feel a little bit of relief. And now they can start working on phase 2 of the blueprint, which is being the employer of choice. I want everybody to be the company that people want to work for and they want to stay. We've had some clients that they can't hire new people because nobody wants to leave. They're like, we got a couple people we want to replace, but they're fighting to stay there, which is amazing. It's amazing. I don't believe we have a labor shortage in most industries. I think we have a labor crisis in a lot of industries, but we've treated people so poorly for so long, they just don't want the jobs anymore. It's not that they wouldn't do the work. They just don't want to work for you. And so being the employer of choice is about solving that, getting really clear on how you behave, that stuff we talked about earlier, the behaviors, your why, your vision, where are you going? Like, why would people want to stick around? Getting really clear on that. And then building those high trust leadership teams, knowing that I can go to my supervisor and say, hey man, I had a really rough day last night. Or I'm going to have a really rough day today because last night, me and my wife got in a big fight. We were up late. I'm here. I want to perform, but just, be patient with me. But we don't have those conversations because, well, that's not appropriate at work. Well, this isn't Severance. Okay. It's not like they walk through, they go up the elevator and it's all over. Like their personal life comes with them. You get the whole package when you hire a human being. And then things like showing them a career path, an opportunity to grow. I mean, that's a great retention mechanism that so many companies miss out on. They create these elaborate org charts, but they don't show people how to climb the steps. Let's sit down and do that. Having an industry leading reputation. Most small businesses can't find good people because good people can't find them. They've never thought about how do I get in front of these people? So that's being the employer of choice. And once we've built all that out, now we move into things like organizational design and making sure you have the right people in the right seats. Everybody has a really well-defined job description and understands it. I can't tell you how many job descriptions I've seen and I show it to the person that's in that role and they're like, I don't do half this stuff. I don't understand what some of this is. Let's create really great ones that people can align to. And then teach them how to interview, build really structured interview processes that are based on behavior, not necessarily skills and experience. Because we already talked about it. Great employees show up on time. They take care of the customer. They provide a great experience. They're good team players. We never interview for those things. What we interview for is how long have you used that piece of software? How long have you used this equipment? How many things have you repaired? That's what we interview for. All this stuff we teach. All the stuff we teach is what we interview for. We need to stop that. We need to start interviewing for the things we can't teach. Then once we finish that, we roll out all those job descriptions to everybody in the organization. We make sure we have a solid onboarding plan that supports that. I already talked about the different onboarding pieces. And that's the foundations of the blueprint. Those are the first 4 phases. We call those foundation. Yeah. And then the last 3 are more focused on the future.
Well, let's talk about that. So once you have that foundation in place, so what does the future look like? I imagine I think you're talking about building the bench, preparing to scale. And so what does it mean from an employee standpoint when they say, let's build the future?
Yeah. So as soon as we finish up foundations, that's that being able to deliver on the promise. Mm-hmm. Those first 4 phases are all about being able to deliver. And then in phase 5, 6, and 7, we start working on more of creating that promise, putting that promise out there. So phase 5, we call it inspire a future-driven team. Okay. This is people that are excited about where the company's going, excited about what's in it for them. They're the ones that understand that when I make that next career step, it doesn't just mean more money. It means I get to buy a new house or buy a new car, like the things that it affords them.
Right.
And so what we do in phase 5 is we develop what we call a growth accelerator program. And it's the gap between where the employee is and where they want to be in their personal life. Like, how many times have you talked to an employee and they're like, gosh, I just wish I could make 30,000 more a year.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you could if you could produce 100,000 of more value to the company. So let's talk about ways to do that. So they don't think about that. So we have to coach them through it. And that's what this does. And so what we do is we sit down and we say, great, these are the personal goals you want to achieve. Let's show you how, let's work together for how the work or being a part of our team can help get you there.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit, Ryan, about what is it and what's the process, or how should leaders frame building that bench strength for their people, for their company?
Yeah. So, I mean, when we start thinking about bench strength, that's when we're looking at phase 7. But, we want people to sit down. We want everybody in the organization to have a very future focused mindset.
Okay.
Like, so often I do a lot of work in construction, and I can pretty much now just with certainty say, so you do weekly payroll, because they all do it. Very few do bi-weekly or bi-monthly. They do weekly payroll. And the reason they do weekly payroll is because no one's ever taught their employees how to budget. So they can calculate one Saturday and how much they're going to spend hanging out with friends, but not 2. And I don't mean this to dismiss them. No one's ever taught them good budgeting. I mean, Dave Ramsey has this huge platform because we don't teach budgeting in this world. And so one of the things that you can do to get people thinking more about the future is do something like implement Smart Dollar in your business, Dave Ramsey's program to help people learn budgeting and be able to track budgets. And so now all of a sudden they're focused more on the future. Mm-hmm. What am I saving for? What do I want to accomplish? What are, and take them through the baby steps if that's in alignment with your company's culture, right? And that's one of the very popular ones that a lot of our clients put in place to get these people thinking about the future is, what? If they can figure out how to live beyond 7 days of paycheck and they can start saving and they can start thinking about retirement, all of a sudden, we've got an entire team of people thinking about the future. And now they come to you and they go, what's next?
Yeah. Well, a lot of things, there's a lot of buzz around, artificial intelligence and so forth. And a lot of industries are a bit shook up about that. Also supply chain problems. I mean, what is when we're looking at construction and blue collar work, what are the pressures that they're facing?
As far as the frontline employees?
Yes.
Or just the companies in general?
Well, let's talk about both, but let's start with the frontline employees.
Yeah. I will tell you that I pay a lot of attention to the industry, and anybody that says that robots are coming for their jobs, I mean, they're still living in sci-fi world.
Yeah.
The robots that are out there, we've got one client, they do reinforcing steel, and they're working with a robot that lays down the rebar for the decks. It really is just a monotonous, time-consuming, very repetitive, very tough on the body job. Mm-hmm. And so they made a robot for that. And I, as far as I know, no one's ever complained that they don't have to lay down the decks anymore. Like, they're excited to let a robot do that because now they can go do the things that they're skilled in doing. And I think we're going to see that a little bit more in construction. We're going to see the jobs that are incredibly unsafe. We're going to see the jobs that are incredibly just taxing on the body. We're going to see robotics be able to solve some of that. They're not going to do it as fast. They're not going to do it as high quality, but they will be able to do it. And with that means that now we need to train people up. So this one robot in particular, now you need to have an operator for the robot because it's not autonomous.
Yeah.
And this is someone that has the skills, has done the work, understands what it takes to lay down rebar, and can actually operate the equipment. So now we've got people that are now learning the technology side of the business to support that. But I personally don't believe in my lifetime that robots are going to be taking over construction jobs. Right.
But as you said, they could be changing their skill set a bit as far as what people are interacting with.
I mean, crane operators, it's not your granddad's crane anymore. I mean, like you get in there, it's like virtual reality. Like there's gaming stuff. I mean, they gamify it. They do a lot. So definitely, but I think that helps attract the next generation.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. The boomers aren't interested in that. They're like, give me my old grandfather's crane. But the next generation who grew up on video games and virtual reality and all of that, like they want to be connected into this.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that as well. So are you seeing a generational impact on the frontline workers in construction?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge we have with the next generation in construction is that we have this belief that we need to get into the schools to get the next generation excited.
Mhm.
And I think that is all wrong. I think what we need to do is we need to get in front of mom and dad of the kids that are in school
Huh.
and encourage them to not push their kids towards college and encourage their kids to go into the trades. But we're skipping mom and dad. We skipped them. And now we're like, well, we'll just get in the high schools. Well, the kids in the high schools aren't going to take a job that mom and dad doesn't think is cool. They're not going to take a job that their friends don't think is cool. So we've got to get in front of mom and dad. And everybody, I mean, I don't know anybody that's targeting mom and dad. And I don't have a big enough platform, and that's not really my thing. But I encourage all of our clients, like, how do you get in front of mom and dad?
Right.
And the example I give is, I remember when I was a kid, and I was playing T-ball, right? I'd get there and the jerseys would have a car dealership logo on the back. And I just remember this. It was always a car dealership that sponsored the jerseys for the kids playing baseball. Well, they weren't doing that just because they wanted to give back to the community and buy jerseys for a kid. They were doing it because every time mom washed that jersey, guess what logo she saw? Every time her kid was up at base and they're taking pictures, guess what logo mom and dad saw? And that's the mentality we need to have if we want to get the next generation.
So it's a long-term play in ensuring that you have a future workforce for your organization, right? So that because right now I know that I'm just trying to get work done on my house or a professional to come in, a plumber or somebody that knows I mean, I have to wait in line for maybe next year.
If they call you back.
Yeah,
I just went through what I call contractor hell at my house, just getting new gutters on my house. And it was crazy folks, how many companies I called that just would never call me back or send me a quote.
Yeah, and these individuals, I mean, these professionals in plumbing and these contractors, I mean, they make a lot of good money nowadays. I mean, it's like, and so it's not like the days of old where you had to go get a college education to make money. I mean, the trades are where I think the future is.
Well, I know for a fact, because I do a lot of work in the steel space. I mean, you can start out as a laborer making today $16, $18 an hour.
Yeah.
And today there are people making six figures because they've climbed, because they just understand the trade. I mean, you can make $100,000 a year as a superintendent easily, working for the right company. And that's today. So imagine if someone started today making $18 an hour, they'll be making 150 in 10, 20 years.
So that's what's going on in the U.S. Sumit, what's things in India? I mean, like, are you seeing a evolution of the trades?
Not really here, Sam, because roles like construction workers, plumbers, or anyone in a trade as such, they're very, very lowly paid, and so there's very little threat from technology because a lot of the work is manual, and we've got. I mean, construction workers are probably among the poorest of the poor in India. So they barely make enough to survive. Therefore, technology isn't as prevalent here yet. And I don't really see jobs going away in the short term. But what I do see, and I mean, I've worked a bit with sectors like mining, I think they're being able to improve the safety aspects and the training aspects in the industry because of tech. So, for example, if you're let's say a truck driver and there are trucks all over the world, you've got 10 locations in Europe, South America, parts of Africa, and so on. Every time there's an upgrade, you have to publish a training manual that gets revised, and translating that into 8 different languages is expensive, and by the time you do it once, it's already time for the next update. So with the help of AI, I think that process is becoming faster. And I was working with a client recently where they were able to shorten the time from, say, around 8 months for the entire package to be ready to about 1.5 months. So that's a huge saving of cost. It improves safety and employee motivation, and of course, productivity.
That's interesting. And so what about, what are you seeing, Ryan? Are construction leaders is AI, is it starting to be embraced by some of these leaders to improve processes?
I read something the other day that said it's like 32% of companies are starting to explore AI, not even embrace it. It's like 32%. Now, it's very industry specific, because there's some industries like marketing that's probably 90%, and there's some probably like retail that are like nothing. But I think what's happening, what I'm seeing in the trades where the AI, it's the knowledge work where the AI is coming up. I'm seeing a lot of AI in the field and actually getting it done. But the project management, the estimating, we're starting to see a little bit of AI there. I just ran across a company that's doing something that helps you build out your BIM models. And so there's some stuff that's happening, but it's all the knowledge work. It's all the desk jobs where I'm seeing it incorporated. I'm not really seeing it a lot in the field. Although there is a company out there now that's doing safety cameras. So a lot of construction contractors are putting cameras on their job site all day.
Yeah.
And this can actually look at the people working and identify who's not being safe.
Right.
And so I see some of that happening, but you know what? That right there is not a replacement for anything. That was never happening. Like, I know you have site safety managers, but they can't watch everybody all the time.
Right.
You know? So I think if we see AI come into the field, it's going to be something that is more not to replace, but just to enhance what happens in the field.
And then to exactly enhance and to give coaching and development opportunities to those people that perhaps are not having the right behaviors, as you mentioned. But I think of course there's always the humans hate being watched, right? That they that be surveilled. And so that's the other thing is just the readiness around that. I mean, certain cultures, I mean, it's kind of like built in. I mean, you can't walk anywhere in London without being on camera, right? But so I think that it's just an evolution of if we're ready for that or not. But anyway, this has been a great conversation, Ryan. I love these talks, but I would. What's next for you? I mean, what are you looking forward to for the rest of this year?
Yeah, we launched the blueprint earlier this year, and it's been really great. I mean, clients are super excited about it. They love the clarity of where they're at and what the next steps are. So we're polishing that up a lot. And then the next big thing for us is being able to bring on new clients and really support them. We shifted from a kind of a do-it-yourself model where we train and coach to more of a we're going to build it with you model. We're the experts in building this stuff. So as long as you can get us the information like to help fill in the gaps, we take care of building everything. And so with that, I'm looking to level up the team, add a couple of employees here and just be able to support the incoming client load just because, I mean, we're in the trades. Like this isn't getting fixed anytime soon. AI is not solving it. And so there's a lot of opportunity out there for us.
That's great to hear. So, so where can our leaders that are dialing in right now or listening to this session, where can they find you?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. So we post a lot of tools and share a lot of thoughts and everything on LinkedIn. So if they just want to be able to consume some content, also my website, corematters.com. We have a whole learning library there. They can learn a lot of stuff. And then for people that are interested in knowing more about my book, I've got an offer for them. If they go to corematters.com/free book, just help me out with shipping and handling. I'll autograph a copy and I'll mail a copy of the book out to you so you can learn all about the CoreFit hiring system and then go to our website to learn about the blueprint.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. And to all the listeners out there, we'll see you next week on the People Strategy Forum. Take care, everyone.